Good morning and welcome to Worcester Vineyard Church. This is the talk for Sunday the 20th of December, and as it's this close to Christmas, this is my Christmas message for this year. And as a special treat, I've got a little video clip for you to watch as part of the message this morning. So enjoy this. This is courtesy of our friends at Trent Vineyard. And then when this is finished, I'll come back and add my little message to the end.
Wise men, magi, stargazers, kings. They came from the east, observing constellations. The stories being told and retold, capturing imaginations, holding our attention throughout the generations. Replete with knowledge, wealth, status, clothed with splendour, with regal greatness. They saw something written in the night skies, something significant that caught their attention. The arrival of one of which the heavens took note, of one for whom the silent stars spoke. And so he arrived subtly in obscurity, unseen, and as creation held its breath, he began to breathe. And so these magi, reading the skies, set out on a journey, leaving all else behind, looking for royalty, looking for a king, looking for the one who made the stars sing. And they found the child without a palace, without fine clothes or kingly food. They found him without royal guards or protection, without dignitaries or an official reception. In obscurity and simplicity, humble, poor, they found what they'd been looking for. And so these kings, these wise men knelt in the dust, placing treasures on the ground in the dirt. Gifts that had travelled from distant lands, carefully crafted with skillful hands, carried a huge distance with the greatest care, prized and finally placed there in the dirt. Gold, a royal gift for a king, more valuable than any other thing, but out of place in a place like this. Frankincense, perfume from the boswellia tree, the fragrance of royalty, portion of the wealthy, but out of place in a place like this. Myrrh, an expensive burial gift, strange for a birth, but then all of this there was more to this child than circumstance suggested. These gifts were extravagant, expensive, majestic, perhaps even something prophetic, but out of place in a place like this. With treasures lying in the dust, things in which men and women trust, these kings gazed upon this boy, this baby, without delay, readily exchanging all this for him. More valuable than gold, frankincense and myrrh, more valuable than any treasure in this world. The child grew to become a man who would live and teach like no one else had, kind to the broken, the hated and the despised, strong with those who thought themselves wise, yet killed and buried though innocent of wrong. Once again hidden where you wouldn't expect, in a tomb not a stable but unlikely nonetheless, was a treasure more valuable than any other thing. Like the first breath of the baby in the stable in the dark, life came into the tomb, his body, his heart. Those around him, like the wise men right at the start, fell to their knees in wonder. The baby in the stable with treasures at his feet became the centre point of history, the greatest influence, the brightest hope the world would ever see. Those kings, those magi heard what few else did as they journeyed far and long. The sound that broke the silent night as the stars burst into song.
So I hope you enjoyed that. As I was thinking about Christmas and the message I wanted to give, I was thinking about the value of Christmas and what's the true value of Christmas. And being good at valuing something is a great gift. If you can discern the true value of an antique or of an investment, it's a great gift. But many of us actually are not that good at valuing things. I know I've had a lot of mistakes in my time, and all of us have no doubt had that gadget thing where you see something advertised and you think, I've got to have that. That's going to be worth the money. And then when you get it kind of just use it once and it sits in the shelf or something in the kitchen. We've all had that problem valuing a gadget well. I enjoy watching the Antiques Roadshow, and one of the things that amazes me and also always creates a stir in the crowd is when somebody brings along something that they've rescued from a skip or picked up for a couple of quid from a car boot sale, and it turns out to be worth thousands of pounds. Somebody got rid of it or sold it on the cheap, not realizing the true value of it, and somebody else picks it up. And I think it's true that we're often not very good at valuing what's really the most important things about life. We spend a lot of time chasing things which turn out to be not very valuable, particularly in terms of our inner life, our spiritual life. And perhaps one of the things of this year in this time of the pandemic has been that we've reevaluated our life in many ways. Things that we were valuing suddenly seemed less valuable, and we've come to value other things more. Whether it be nature, just getting out to be able to walk and enjoy the world, and relationships. We've perhaps become, as we've lost some of that connection, we've valued our relationships more, and hopefully in the seasons that will come we will appreciate one another more. And just the value of hugging, I've missed that so much, and I think I will never have a hug again without realizing just how valuable it is, having lost it. And in the story of Christmas, it's amazing that as Jesus comes as God's son to this earth as a little child, not really many people seem to value it much. And in that story we've just seen wonderfully demonstrated of the wise men, which is it's a strange story. These philosophers, these stargazers, these wise men who come from a land way in the east. They're one of the few people that seem to appreciate what's really going on as Jesus is born. And they travel these thousands of miles over probably a long period of time, and bring these gifts to the baby, who's probably 1 or 2 years old by this stage, it's usually thought. And this gold and this frankincense and this myrrh. Some people have tried to put a current value on what these gifts will be worth now, and they range if you look on the internet, but certainly it seems to be in the millions of pounds. And they seem to have realised that there's something special going on here. There's something unusual, there's something of great value. Even though as they turn up to this child when they find him, he seems probably he's living in a very ordinary house with ordinary parents, and there's nothing extraordinary going on. There's nothing to signify that he's of great value, and yet they give these gifts. They open their treasures, as it says. So although he seems ordinary, this coming of Jesus seems ordinary. It's not with a great fanfare. It's not how the media of today would do it. It's not how Donald Trump would do it. This great arriving. It's done in a very quiet, strange backwater way. But they realise that there's just this child is of inestimable worth, is of great value, and so it turns out that this child, when he grows up and becomes a man and begins his ministry, his life and his teaching, the healings that he does, the miracles that he does, all point to this special value of who he is. And most of all in his salvation, that we realise the true value of who Jesus is. The fact that he ends up giving up his life for us, that we might receive life. There's two of my favourite parables, are two of the shortest stories that Jesus ever told. And they're this. In Matthew chapter 13, verse 44, it says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again. And in his joy, he went and sold all he had and bought that field. And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it." Those two stories talk of somebody who finds something of great value and then realizes it's worth selling everything else that he has in order to have that. And the Christmas message is that Jesus is that treasure. He's that pearl. He's the one thing that we should value more than anything else. As we evaluate our lives and what matters, it's the coming of Jesus at Christmas that we celebrate at Christmas that is of the most important value. It's the most important thing we could ever treasure and ever have. He is the great treasure. And we too should reevaluate our lives in the light of that. That's how we should live. And life fits together and works when we value Jesus most of all. I did a series earlier in the year about doing life well. And I guess just to add to those talks, I would say that, valuing Jesus, realizing his worth, is the thing that makes life do well, that allows us to do life well. If I can paraphrase one of Jesus' own phrases, it's value first the King, and all these other things work. All these other things fit into place. So this strange story of the wise men as they bring their gifts to this unassuming child, and they realise his value. I want to say to you, realise the value of Jesus again this Christmas. In all of the other stuff that's going on, it's who he is that's the greatest gift. But the Christmas message is not only that Jesus is of preeminent value, but also it reminds me of the value of each one of us. This coming of Jesus into our world. We have trouble sometimes feeling valuable, and one of the greatest longings in our hearts, and the thing that's been put there by God is a desire to feel our own self-worth, and that all comes from Jesus, from God, from the Trinity, from realizing our worth in him and in them. And we feel valuable, don't we, when somebody does something really special for us, whether they a special birthday party that is organised and we don't know about it, or somebody does something and goes out of their way for us to do something for us. It raises our spirits. We feel valued. We feel of worth. And that's what Jesus has done in the incarnation, in this coming to the earth as a little baby and coming in flesh and blood. He's done something really special for us. Christmas means that we are of inestimable value to Jesus. The founder of the Vineyard, John Wimber, he used to, when he did talks on those two parables about the treasure and the pearl, he used to turn it around, and I think this is absolutely wonderful. He used to say that actually we are the treasure and we are the pearl to Jesus, and he gave up everything that he had, in order to have us as his treasure and to have us back. And I think we can look at that parable in both those ways, that for us Jesus is the treasure, but for him we are the treasure and the pearl of great price, who he gave up everything for. He left behind the beauty, the glory, the peace, the harmony, the order of heaven, and he came to us, to this earth. He came to get involved with us, and to experience the mayhem and the madness, the mess and the muddle that is our world. And he did that to get us back. He did that to re-establish a relationship with us and to bring the harmony of heaven into this mess of our world. And that reminds me just how valuable I am to him. When I think, I just think, we get those moments, don't we, in our lives when we just think, I don't know, I don't feel very valuable, I don't feel very worthy, and we're conscious of all the stuff in our life that's a mess. And yet, I see again in the message of Christmas that Jesus comes. He comes to win me back, and he comes to say, look, I love you. I'm willing to give up my life for you. I'm willing to come and get involved in all of this stuff of life and ultimately be rejected and not seen as valuable by those in his day and still in our day. And yet he comes and chases us down, and he wants to get us back, and he loves each one of us. So the value of Christmas is that Jesus is the most valuable gift that we could ever receive, but also that he values us so much that he comes and he gives himself for us. That's what Jesus has done for us. In this time, we're looking for hope. We're looking for something to bring joy and to keep us going in this season of loss and difficulty and strangeness of this COVID time. And I'm reminded that hope is, there is hope in the vaccine, and there is hope in looking forward to getting back to a more normal life sometime in this new year. I don't know when it's going to be, but whenever it happens. But that still doesn't give us the hope that we need at the deepest point and the deepest need of our lives, that spiritual inner need. And that comes from a person. Hope is a person, and that hope is Jesus. He comes to bring light to our darkness. He comes to bring life out of death. He brings to bring beauty out of ashes and renewal out of hopelessness. So he comes to bring hope. That hope is a person. That hope is Jesus. And may you experience him in deepest, greater measure in this coming season. Thank you for listening for this talk. Thank you for listening to my talks over this time. I hope they've been valuable of 2020. Bless you in this coming season. May God's peace, may God's presence, may God's hope, may God's joy become closer and more real to you day by day in this next season. God bless you.